Okay, welcome to our, I think it's our 8th webinar now. And this one we're talking all about fresh and chilled semen. I really appreciate, it looks like we've got another fantastic audience. We had virtually a record audience last time from all over the world, so that's great. So tonight we're really going to talk about how we process fresh and chilled semen in the lab. This is about the 8th webinar, as I was saying, and it's the 3rd in this stallion management series. So we've learned all about the stallion in the barn. We've learned all about the collection process, and we've learned now today we're going to talk fresh and chill. And tonight we just, again, like if you can ask some more questions, Faye will read them out to us so we can find any questions that you want to know during the night. Any poll questions we're going to be putting out, a few would be great if you can answer them. And just so we've got, Pam's our lab manager, so she's going to be helping us tonight. And going through, Pam's been here nearly 9 years now, is that right, Pam? Nearly 10, yes. And Faye is going to be asking the questions. So if you've got any burning questions, if you've got any problems with stallions, collecting and all that side, we've got Faye here asking them as we go. Really, these nights can't be held without our sponsors. So we've got some great sponsors tonight. It does put on quite a lot. It's totally non-profit. We're not making any money out of this. It goes to British Breeding, and I'll tell you what, they put so much work into this as well, so it pays for all that side of it. So with thanks for Vital, who are semen extender specialists, and we're going to talk all about the semen extenders tonight, and we're going to show you what they've got and all the other ones as well. So we're really pleased, and thank you very much, Marika and Spur Vital, for helping sponsor tonight. Blue Chip, well, we've got a good relationship with Blue Chip for many years. They're a feed balancer specialist, and also they provide the SPM20, which is a stallion feed supplement as well. So a big thank you to them for really sponsoring tonight. Spillers, they've been the series sponsors for all this series so far, so obviously a big thank you to them as well. And Blue Chip are giving a real good giveaway to one person tonight. They're giving not 1, not 2, but 3 months supply of SPM20 as well. And they're also giving a £35 voucher. So one lucky person tonight, if you stay to the end, you've got to stay to the end, and they're going to give away some vouchers as well for that. So what have we got on tonight in the lab here? We got Bart, and also I forgot to mention we've got the great Bart Calls from Germany for the 3rd time now. So
I hope you can hear me.
You were making me sweat a bit, Bart, before. I didn't think you were going to turn up. It was like, anyway, I thought you were thinking it was German time, not England time. So you've arrived, have you? I'm
sorry, I hope you can hear me now.
I can hear you loud and clear, Bart.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, yes. Super. Yes. Now I'm there.
Good. You were getting me a bit worried, Bart, before. I didn't think you were going to turn up. I was going to have to fly this solo. So luckily you've come along. So we've got our German counterpart, which is great, because if you've been following the series, Bart has got so much more information. We do things slightly differently, which I think is quite a good thing, and he'll give you a bit of an insight of all the he collects nearly 30 to 40 stallions a day, and so what he doesn't know isn't worth knowing. So he's going to help us through tonight as well. So tonight, what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about lab setup. How we set up a laboratory, all the equipment associated with the lab. A little bit of semen evaluation as well tonight, a bit of semen assessment, a bit about fresh semen processing, about centrifugation, a very important part of processing semen, especially if you're chilling it, and chilled semen processing, so we can work all that out. Just to say, in 2 weeks' time, we've got another webinar on 30th of August at 7 p.m. and that's all about frozen semen. So it's all about the dose and how frozen semen is made and produced, and how we do it in the lab and process it, and all the handling and everything you really need to know about that side of it. Again, as we have been right the way through this series, the charity tonight is the Horse Trust, and I just ask you at the end of it, it'd be great. You're not paying obviously for anything to be tonight, and it's great to have you here. But it'd be great if you can support the Horse Trust. The Horse Trust looks after rescued horses and ponies. And if you can just give a £5 or something, that would be fantastic. And lastly, really a big thank you to the British Breeding for really putting it on tonight. They go through an enormous amount of effort. They do all the back work, all the background stuff to making sure this runs smoothly. So without further ado, now we've got Bart involved, we're going to carry on the webinar. So we'll come around here, Lucinda. I forgot to mention, obviously, Lucinda is always behind the camera, not in front of the camera, but she's obviously, without her, none of this would happen. So obviously a big thank you for you turning up tonight. Really, when we start, and I think just the lab setup is really important when you're building a lab. Now, a lot of you may have already got your labs built. Some of you may be thinking about building a lab. And it's really important how you actually set up a laboratory and the process. So if we come over here, I'm a great believer, you want to be trying to work around your lab in a methodical order. So in other words, when you get the semen, how are you going to process that semen? You know, you want to be looking under the microscope. You want to add some extenders. So you want to be processing in a nice order. I went to one lab last year, and they had a huge laboratory, but they had the microscope over in one corner, they had a centrifuge over in the other, and it just didn't flow. And I always think when you're processing semen, it's got to flow to get the best results. Now, Bart, I know you can still hear me, but Bart, you've just built a new laboratory, is that right?
Yeah, I rebuilt it, and it's exactly like you say, you just build, you go through your head, how are the steps you're going, and exactly, I come inside, I turn once around all my lab, and then I'm finishing all the stuff. Yeah. That's exactly how you say.
And I think you might think, when you listen to this, you might think it's quite simple, that, but actually, it just takes a bit of planning, and the processing the semen it's really weird. I always think if you don't get a failed collection, or if you don't get interrupted by the phone or whatever, if the semen flows in a nice process, you always end up with better quality at the end of it. So it's trying to make that flow as best as possible. So lab setup is, to me, trying to think of that. So that's very basic. So now we're going to go through how we set up our lab and all the essential equipment that you need in a lab. So the way we set this lab up, we get the semen, and we're actually doing a live collection in there at the moment, so we're going to get some raw semen coming to us in a minute. But the semen comes in, and we actually start at this corner of the lab, and we work in a methodical order. So the first thing is the microscope. So you want a microscope, ideally, because one of the first things you want to do with this semen is obviously have a look at it under the microscope. One thing with microscopes, people, you really need a warm stage. So you need some way of warming up the semen. And a lot of people forget this side of things. Of really, it's maybe warming it up, and they'll just have a basic microscope. If the semen's not heated up to the right temperature, you're never going to get the right quality when you're looking under the screen up there. So you don't have to necessarily have an all singing, all dancing microscope, you know, a basic microscope. And we're going to look at other semen processing techniques a bit later, but a very basic microscope, you could be surprised how you can see it under the screen. Now, I quite like it on the screen, just for ease of use, but a lot of people just look down in the microscope. So you need a heated stage. I always find you want the computer fairly close, because you'll be wanting to put certain parameters of what you've just seen onto the computer. So we literally look at the semen and onto there. And then the next thing, which is quite cool, is we actually, I don't know whether you can see this, but do you weigh any of your samples, or how do you measure the volume on yours?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we learned from our friend Dixon Barnson.
Yeah.
Exactly. This 1 gram of semen is exactly 1 ml. So we only do it like this, like you show us now.
And I think, like Bart said, this is one of the things we've done. The great Dixon Barnett showed us this, and it's so simple. And we tear them. So we have our baby's bottles, and we have the weighing scales here. And you'll see in a minute when we put the semen on here, it will suddenly tell us it's 14 mils. Now, before, we used to say, oh, that's 15 mils, or that's 10 mils. But if a stallion is giving you something like 300 or 400 million per mil, straight away, you've got inaccurate results. So weighing it makes it a lot more defined. And Bart, since you were last here, we have actually 2 weighing scales. So we don't have to keep calibrating them all the time. So we have one for the frozen semen for the pots, and we have one for the bottles when they come in. So it makes it much more accurate. So that's the next bit of equipment we've got here. Now this is a nice bit of kit. This is called a nuclear cell counter. And this we can actually accurately measure the concentration, and we can even do viability on this. And Bart, you got one of these?
I think that's one of the most important things if you want to have a good lab with good results, and even for fresh and shipping. And it's maybe for the moment a machine who you might thinking it's quite expensive, but this machine pays himself back really fast.
No truer word, you spot. I remember when we first got this, and I have to admit, they're not paying for any advertising tonight, but I have to admit this is one bit of kit that works really well. And when they dropped it off at our place, they said, we've never had one return. And I said, I just don't know whether I can afford it. Well, it's never left our premises. And as Bart says, it's a fantastic bit of kit. So it can very accurately count sperm numbers. And also it can tell you how viable that semen is. So in other words, how morphologically okay is it, or the viability of that semen is, which correlates quite closely with motility. You may have other devices. Some of you may have seen the DVM machine. This is for calculating sperm numbers as well. And also the Spermicue, and there's a more updated version of this from Minitube as well. And this one, God, we've used for absolutely years, and it's a great bit of kit. It's not obviously expensive as a nuclear cell counter. The only thing you've got to remember with these bits of kit is they only work on raw semen, and that's the common mistake people make, is they try and put extended semen through here, and it's never going to read it the same. So the way it works is you've got a cuvette, and it shines light through that, and if the denser the semen, the less light that can go through, so the higher the reading that this machine can give. And they're very accurate within sort of about 100 million to 250 million, but you've got to remember over and above that, they lose their accuracy, so you have to be careful. But that's when most stallions' parameters. So they've got their place and they work all right. The other thing is water bath. We have to look at the way of heating up our extenders. And you've always got to remember with the extenders, you've always got to have these probes. We always just test it, making sure it's the right temperature. So we always have these things that everyone uses when they go into the pubs or shops now to make sure you haven't got a temperature. But we use them all the time just to check the temperature. And then we have the extenders in here. And on the extenders, this is just something new we've done just recently. We've actually get these stickers now. They're called food stickers. And we just stick on the date so we know how old the extenders are in the water bath. So we have one for every day of the week. So every time you put an extender in there, we know how old it is. And that's just a new thing that we've just started doing. It's very easy, and it just makes sure that the extenders you're using aren't too old. Centrifuge. We're going to talk a bit about centrifugation tonight, and we're going to, I don't know if you can see them. Can you see them through there, collecting off the stallion, maybe not? Yeah, so we just got one. So he's just going to hopefully give us a sample in a minute. But centrifugation is so important, and I think it's so interesting, especially in the UK. I did a survey a couple of years ago. I had to do a survey just to see how many people did centrifuge in the UK. Now we found out there was about 30 to 40% of people in the UK centrifuge semen, but in Europe it's something like 80–85%. So do you centrifuge everything, Bart, when you chill it?
Normally, yes. Only if they order too late or something like this, some people have to wait, or I know exactly they will inseminate in the next 2–3 hours. Then I can give with one special extender what's made for without using with with centrifuge, then I give it away like this. But normally, yes, because we always ship everything overnight. So for this, you have to centrifugate.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You'll be absolutely amazed at what a difference I think people out there it makes. So the stallion semen will not travel overnight. Centrifuge it, and honestly, it's like night and day. So with the centrifuge, it's just, Lucinda, if you can get a little bit closer, just if you're getting some of the things you've got to learn or know is you want to make sure they're swing out rotors. So making sure that the rotors swing out, and making sure that what we want to do is measure it ideally in G-force rather than RPM. And there's quite a simple calculation that you can do online. If it's depending on the width of your bucket, you literally, if you just go into Google and put RPM versus G-force, it comes up with a calculation, and you literally just get your ruler, measure from the middle to the end of the bucket, and you can soon work out exactly how fast your centrifuge is spinning in G. Because everything we're going to talk about is in G-force tonight, so it's how fast that's spinning. That's quite important. So centrifuge is quite important. Got a question? Yeah.
A couple of questions. So the first one is, how long do you warm the extender for an advanced processing? The second question is, what's too old for an extender, or is it used fresh each day?
No, I mean, I personally with the extenders, we want to make sure they're up to obviously 37 degrees before we want to be adding the semen, the extender, to the same temperature ideally as the semen, or as near as you can to it. How long do we leave the semen for? It depends on the semen extender itself, but usually, 2 or 3 days is normally you using that extender up. How long will you leave your extender for, Bart? Do you use it up within a few days, or? Can you hear us?
Now I can hear you again.
Yeah, the extender, once you've used the extender, will you wait 2 or 3 days before you use it up? It's okay for 2 or 3 days, isn't it? Once it's
I say it depends on which extender you have.
Yeah.
If you have an extender with some egg yolk, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
You can maybe defreeze and make it cold and warm one more time, but then I would be really careful to use it again. If you have an extender without any egg yolk, I think you can use, okay, in my place I use a few liters a day, so it's not so, I use it only after 2 days, but I make some tests and you can use it 2 or 3 times, make warm, cold. But if possible, don't make too much warm. It's better to take defreeze, warm, and use, I think.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah. There's another question.
A couple of questions, about centrifuging. So
we might come on to centrifuging a bit later. Just park them, Faye, and we'll come back. So centrifuging we're going to show in a minute because it is really important, and then we're going to talk about how we take off the band on that. And really, these last bits, we're not going to talk about this too much today, but we're going to talk about all that frozen semen, printing the straws, filling and sealing the straws. These are all our freezing extenders. We're going to talk all about these in a minute. There's lots of different, there's more of these ones here actually. But I think we've got one poll question, Rachel, now is, I'd just be quite interested from the people out there, how many of you actually, when you're sending your chilled semen out, how many of you are actually centrifuging it as opposed to sending out non-centrifuge? So hopefully that will come up in a minute, and it'll be interesting on that. And just as we've had a lot of people from a lot of different countries tuning in last time, and you'll see from a presentation, one thing I enjoy a lot is actually setting up laboratories. So if anybody is looking to have a laboratory set up, that's something we set them up in Dubai, in Kuwait, and all over the place. So just come back to us, and we're more than happy to help you set up your labs, or help you with, obviously, with the training of the stallions and so on. And I know Bart does the same. Right. So we have our first collection come in, haven't we, Pam?
We have.
Yes, and this is foreclosure. So he was the guy that we collected off last time, and thank you for Derek Delaney for letting us use the outstanding. But so we've first of all come in, and we can see that he's given us. Oh, that the poll. What was the poll again? Sorry, what can you got that on your screen, Faye? Not texting your boyfriend, are you?
Which one? 47% a yes and 53% a no.
Yes, so 50% don't centrifuge. So that's quite a large score. So anyway, we'll come back to that in a minute. So this is a raw sample, and we put it on the scales, and you can see he's given us 35 mils on this sample. So, and if we have a look on the screen here, we have a quick look. I don't know whether it's going to show us up there. Yeah, we get a good. So it looks, yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, wow. Yeah. So that's showing, you know, we're having a quick look. And I always think it's quite good to look at the semen straight away in its raw state before you add an extender to it, because you don't know whether the extender's had an influence. So we always have a very quick look at it under the microscope. Have we done a calculation on it?
It's 185 million per mil.
So we've done a, we might as well, can you just do one for us, Pam? Yeah, if you can just show us how that's done. So we're just going to do a concentration on this as well. And what we do is we take, you know, a very small, like 25 microliters, and we put it through this machine. And if we do a viability as well, we can see how good it is. So it mixes with a solution.
Tullis,
Yeah.
I understand you want to show this, but maybe you tell the people that if you have seen the nature semen, maybe they should, as fast as possible, take a little bit out for measuring and then dilute to protect the raw semen.
You're right. And I think what I'll do now is, can I come over there just a second? I might just find better sitting down or something. I don't know. I always find that. So, Bart is absolutely spot on. You know, we're not going to rush it tonight because I think it's important you understand how to process. But Bart is absolutely spot on. When you have raw semen, it's not in the mare, it's not in the stallion. It's open to all the elements we're throwing at it, and it's always deteriorating. And in some stallions, the raw sample deteriorates very, very quickly. So we need to add extender to it as soon as we can. So I say tonight, we're not going to rush it, but normally we'd have extender in here, like Bart was saying. We might take a little bit out to one side to do a reading on it. So, but that's, yes, you're right. It's very important it's dilated. I think whenever we get this sample in, it's really important to look at the semen. Look at the characteristics. Straight away, I always say, what's the first thing you do is have a look. Have you got a collection? Is it got any contaminants in it? So the two main contaminants you can get is either blood or urine, and you can usually smell the urine and see it, or the blood. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you haven't got any contaminants. And you can AI this. There's no reason why you can't AI raw semen, but you would have to be, you want to be very quick at doing it. And also you want to keep it at body temperature. If it's got no extender in it, you have to keep it at body temperature. So the next thing what we would do is, I always say, we just add 1-to-1 of extender. Now we're going to centrifuge this extender in a minute. So we've got a sort of a centrifuge medium, which is an egg-based extender that we use. And the best thing is just to add 1-to-1. So that's all we do, or just a little over. And that just dilutes that extender out. So it's literally, it's just a, so it's 35, that's 70 mils, isn't it?
Yeah.
And at this stage, we can actually, you can chill out, you can go and have your cup of tea, make that phone call once the extender is so is that what you do, Bart? Do you extend it 1-to-1, or do you extend it out more than 1-to-1 initially?
Depends a little bit on what I see. If I see it's really, really concentrate semen, I will give a bit more insight to 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the beginning, we 1 to 1 just to save the nature semen.
Yeah.
And then we can see how much concentrate it is. And then we will make the 1 to 1 or 1 to 2, 1 to 3 maybe if it's so concentrated. But yeah.
And this stallion, it's very easy to do the maths on this. This stallion gave us 35 mils. He's given us a concentration of 192 million sperm per mil. And so he's absolutely spot on, this stallion. I always say, you know, it's between 6 or 7 billion and 10 billion sperm cells. He's given us 6.7 billion sperm cells in this ejaculate. But that's everything. That's all the good sperm cells, the dead ones, the whole lot. But that just gives you a rough idea of how many sperm cells we can do with that. And if we have a look under the microscope, and we'll do a bit more on motility in a minute, but if we suddenly say 65% of these are moving, we times that by 65%, and that means we've got about 4 billion sperm cells to do. So with fresh semen, you could easily split this several ways. In the UK, we tend to put a little bit more sperm cells in. So you could easily do 8, and you might even be able to do 16 mares quite happily with this one sample that we have here. But we'll come on to that a little bit later. So with fresh semen, we generally just do 1 to 1, and then we go and seminate the mare straight away. But as Bart was saying, it does depend on the concentration of the semen. You can dilute it out a bit more. But also, I think the length of period of time that is going to sit in on that. So if you're not going to centrifuge it, you really want to dilute it out a little bit more as well for the longer time period that you're doing. So that's it with fresh semen. Any questions or?
Quite a few coming in, but it's how long can you leave the raw semen before you extend it?
So we were saying, I would not like to leave raw semen any more than 15 minutes. Ideally, I want the semen extended out straight away. But I've seen some stallions with raw semen, it dies off very, very quickly. And I think we just have to find out why that is. It's all to do with the stallion ejaculates, as we know, mainly in 3 fractions. So you get pre-ejaculated fluid, you get your sperm-rich fraction, and you get this gel, this copious substance at the end. But actually, in the sperm-rich fraction, it's got the seminal fluids, it's got different fractions in there as well. Now, some of that seminal fluid can have a real negative effect to that semen. Now, some stallions, it has a real negative effect straight away, some it doesn't. And that's why we have to centrifuge to get that semen out of that fluid as soon as possible. That's why we dilute it out with extenders, to dilute it out of that seminal fluid. So it is so stallion dependent on that, I think. So I think really, and I think like Bart was saying, you like to dilute it straight away. Is that right, Bart?
Yeah, I like to dilute straight away. I take the semen, make it that I know how much I have, and I dilute, even because I have not like you a bottle, I have a glass. So even I have a glass, and I make about 10-15 ml of extender before I put the semen inside. But then I've seen the semen before.
Yeah. No, it's
but I think it's very important that you dilute as soon as possible.
Yeah. And I think, and there's no hard and fast rule. Some stallions will have the toxicity effects of the seminal plasma will be really bad straight away. And that's when we talked about last time, we actually put extender in the bottle with some of those to dilute it out. So that's how quick. We're just going to start spinning this down because it might take a few minutes. Another little tip, Pam, can you just go and get some new pots, new one, and I can show. Little thing with these centrifuge tubes, just be careful. Pam's just going to get one now. Is when we first open them, thank you, Pam, they can really smell, and they can be, to me, this could be it's the cleaning agent, the sterility. So we always like to let these breathe or even wash them before we use them, because I think that has a negative effect. And any of you that followed us last week, as I kept on saying, every single little bit helps these little sperm cells in here. So in other words, if we don't wash the stallion off very well, if we don't get the collection the first time, if we put too much gel in the AV, if we let all these things can make an absolute massive difference. So every little bit helps. It's not a Tesco's advert either, by the way. So, sorry for our broad friends, you won't get that joke. But it really does, and I'm a great believer of if you slapdash, it can have negative effects. So all the way along your way that you process it, even the little things of this can make a difference to how your semen ends up at the end. So anyway, thank you for that, Pam. So with the centrifuge, we've just added it about 1 to 1, and with centrifuges, you always want to balance them out. So all we do here is making sure, yeah, it's balanced out. So you've got exactly the same amount when you're centrifuging. So we've got some lids in here. And so we'll put them opposite. So when you put it, if you don't have enough if you only got one tube, just balance it out with some water on the other side. If you don't balance it out, I'm afraid you'll find this bouncing along your bench top or even on the floor, and it won't do your centrifuge any good. So I'll just get this going, and then we'll talk about the speeds in a minute. So.
And quick question, Tullis.
Yeah.
What size are the tubes for the centrifuge?
50 mils. So we use 50 mils. I presume do you use slightly bigger ones, Bart, or not?
Yeah, two things. I use two kinds. I have a glass from 90, but I use with a round bottom without a cushion. And if you have the tubes from 50 with a round bottom, you don't need a cushion. But if you have, like, I think you have them there, you should.
We have got some here. Oh, hang on, I've just got poor Pam can't reach them. We have got some glass ones somewhere. But these are the round bottom. Is that the round bottom ones you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Then you don't need a cushion. I prefer if you have the other ones with the tip on the ground. Maybe I always use a cushion under it to protect them a little bit more.
And we'll go on to the cushion, but when you spin your semen for chilled semen, how fast do you spin it, Bart?
If I have it in the class without a cushion, only with 10 minutes, because I have not so much time, 10 minutes and then 1000 T.
1000, yeah.
T.
And this is
For
where we always do things slightly, because yours is a rounded bottom, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah.
But where I was pointing, so we tend to do it at 500, but we do it between 500 and 600 G.
For 20 minutes.
For 10 minutes we do it, for 10 minutes.
Also, okay.
But we do it longer for freezing semen. We'll cover that next week with a cushion.
Okay.
We do some with cushions, and I have to admit on this tonight, I've always gone on that I talk too much on these things. So tonight we're just going to cover the basics of fresh and chilled and a little bit on semen assessment. But we are going to do another webinar all about advanced techniques of cushions, gradients, and other techniques in the lab to enhance your semen quality as best you can. So we don't want to tell you everything in one night, so you're going to have to hold fire and come back, some of you, if you want to learn a bit more. Yeah, I tend to. The other thing that you want to do is when you centrifuge, we have it on quite a slow stop. Do you have it on quite a slow stop, Bart? Or
I learned from the man from AI Surface.
So
we had a discussion about this.
Yeah.
We spoke about this because normally I did the hard stop, and then you say you did also, and then you found out you had one centrifuge who don't do it, and then you see that with the slow stop it was better. And make some tests, and now I do also only with the slow stop. Yeah,
and so basically you can set these centrifuges up to do fast or slow stop. So we're spinning it at the 550 G now, which is pretty fast. And it's a bit, I always imagine, say you're driving your car along and you slam on the brakes, what's the first thing you do? You go flying forward. Exactly the same with these poor sperm cells in here. They're sort of spinning around and getting a bit of a headache. And if you suddenly stop the centrifuge and it goes from 550 to 0 in 30 seconds, some of them can spiral back up. So you want a nice, slow stop. They can never swim, very difficult to swim up against that centrifuge, even if it's 3 or 4G. But we always have it on a slow stop. So another little tip for you there. Is there
it's not true then that the semen gets dizzy and won't travel if it's centrifuged.
No. It's some stallions might not get the centrifugation, but we're going to talk about that on another webinar, all about the ways that the stallions with very fragile semen, some of the things they can do. One of the things we've got to mention here, if you come around here, Cinders, is Blue Chip tonight. If you can pass my clipboard a second, Pam, so I don't know where I am. Blue Chip, very kind, they sponsor tonight, and they're giving away one of these for 3 months for one stallion and £35. So they've developed this supplement, and it really can help some stallions enormously with sort of poorer quality semen, or just enhance those ones even better. So fully recommend it. We have a lot of our stallions on it here, and it can work very, very well. So but they are one of our main sponsors, obviously, tonight. So we'll come over here, and so on the centrifugation side, we now, sorry, Lucinda, we just have to come around, we're talking about extenders. Some of these subjects might seem a little bit boring, or, one thing I forgot to mention, Mr. Botacrio, Marco, if you're watching, the sperm filter. So if you can't centrifuge, or you don't want to centrifuge, there is something from Botacrio where you can get the sperm filter, and you can actually filter the sperm cells through this filter. It's a little bit fiddly, but some stallions prefer to be used with this. But we'll talk about this on another night in a little bit more detail. Have you ever used this, Bart?
Yeah, but then you need a lot of time, or only 1 or 2 stallions a day.
Yeah.
It works, but you need a lot of time, and or not so much stallion.
Yeah. So so thank you, Marco, for that from Botacrio. So coming on to extenders. Now, I always extenders. It can be a minefield out there for you stallions. What extender do I use for our stallions? It's highly complicated. We'll just run through some of the ones we got here and just put our ones to the side. This is we use this for centrifuging. We make this up stuff. We call this our liquid gold. We're not going to talk about too much about this, but we're going to talk about this a lot next week. So this is our freezing extender. And I know, Desiree, I think you've been using today with great success. And we make this ourselves. And this has got some great ingredients on it. And it works very well for freezing stallions. And I think that's sometimes what sets us above. We can usually freeze of stallions that can be very difficult to freeze. And this can make all the difference. But we're going to talk about all freezing in a couple of weeks' time. So coming on to different extenders, there's one called Hipex, and I know, Bart, you use the Hipex quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, this is the extender. It's specially made for the people who don't like to centrifuge.
Yeah.
That's the ground idea of Hipex, to make an extender for the most of the stallions if you don't centrifuge. So therefore, you can good use. Yes. You can also use. You can use for centrifuge, but
yeah,
there are you can use also for sure. But it depends what you want.
Yeah.
But here's no egg yolk inside.
It's the what?
Here's no egg yolk inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
that you need to know. So it's almost the same like the other extender you will have for sure. It's very wide like the Indra, for example.
Yeah. And no, we use a bit here as well. I must admit, we use a cross section. We have a board down here. I won't show you now, but we have all the stallions and all the different extenders they use, and some are going on Hipex. The Equipure Plus, this is from Minitube, and obviously we're Minitube representatives as well. So I know a lot of you use this. I tell you what, this is really good. This extender for as well is centrifugation, because you'll see in a minute. It's really good. You can see the band much easier when you centrifuge in this as well. So this is developed by Minitube in Germany, and some stallions work very well with this. Marco, well, you haven't even paid for a sponsorship, but I've got to show, I've got to be here showing all extenders. We're not biased to any, but obviously the Boto extenders, and we maybe talk about this again a bit more on the freezing side, but there's Boto Gold and there's Boto Semen. They do a whole range. Nidicom sell that as well. And some of our stallions we've got using the Boto Gold, works very well. Then there's the Spurvital range. Now, Spurvital, we've had a great relationship with Marika for many years now, buying her, and we actually sell and distribute all these extenders as well through equine reproduction supplies. And we have to obviously give a good plug. Spurvital are sponsoring tonight, which obviously thank you very much, Marika, for sponsoring it. And I'm not just saying this because she sponsored, but these are good extenders, and there's no doubt about it. She has a whole range of them. They're frozen, so they arrive with you already frozen, and then you put them in freezing and you thaw them out ready. And she does ones for freezing semen and ones for chilled. This one has the green we use a little bit. The most we use is the red or the blue extender. You use a little bit of this as well, Bart, do you?
I use the blue a lot.
Yeah.
I use the red just, okay. I let the stallion say which extender he prefers.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I cannot say I use this for this stallion. The stallion tells me which extender I need. So that is what you have to find out if you start with the stallion. But the red one, I have a few stallions from, they do with none of the others, but only with the red one. But normally I don't prefer the red one because they have so much power and energy that for shipping, they lost too much of energy inside. But the blue one, it is really a really good extender, and it's used a lot in Europe.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we as Bart was alluding to, and you must do one thing. You must do, and I say every year, and we do it every year here. We do extended tests, so we get the whole range. And can you grab us just that? We can't zoom in on it, but we grab and we pick out what extenders. I like the way you say it, Bart. You let the stallion pick the extender, so that's a good way of doing it. Now, I don't want you to zoom in on this, but we have a list of all the stallions and all the different extenders and the centrifuge speeds and everything, and that. I don't know why, but it does alter, we find, year on year on some stallions. And I still can't work out why that is. So, and one tip that I would like to give you all out there, another tip. You might find one extender that works, the best one, because you do extenders on all of them. But look at the pregnancy results, because for some reason, some extenders work better with pregnancies. It might look better under the microscope, but the pregnancy results aren't so good. So don't be afraid to use the next extender down. So go from the milk-based to the egg-based, or the egg-based to the milk-based. So talking of milk-based extenders, this I would say is one of the most common around the world to be used. It's INRA, and it's a milk-based extender. We use quite a lot of this as well. It's just a very easy extender to work with because it's in your fridge, it's not frozen, and it's easy to mix up with the semen and a lot of stallions. So it is, as Bart was saying, let your stallion choose your extender, not you choose the extender for your stallion. And that's one message to take home. Do that. Don't just pick one and think that's it. Try and look at them all and see how they are. So any questions?
Yeah, I think just for some people, could you just explain what is an extender?
That's a very good point. So someone's asking, what is an extender? As we explained before, if it's in a raw state, it doesn't live very long. So we've got to give it some nutrition. So in an extender, you can see these two, and this is just, I'll show you these two because it's extremely, you usually have egg-based or milk-based extenders. The semen likes to feed off the protein. They've got glucose, they've got sugars in here, they've got antibiotics in here. It's a cocktail of chemicals that feeds and actually looks after the semen, potentially during the freezing process, but also during the chilling process. If you just to chill semen down, so it will die off very quickly. It needs the proteins and the glucose and sugars to look after it during the chilling process. So that's what's how important. So extender or medium, very, very important.
Do you find that many mares react to the extender negatively?
Yeah.
No.
So, Bart, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, for sure. This for 30 years, maybe the extenders, if we start with AI, then the extenders maybe were not that good as they are now. But if some breeders are coming, and there are a lot, they say, oh, my mare, you cannot, we have raw semen, she reacted the extender. That's not the thing. The most of the mares who are reacting on extender, what the people say, they have a problem by themselves. That's why they react. And even if you do what we do a lot with a very low dose, but that we talk later about, then you even don't have a reactor, they are pregnant without raw semen. So I think maybe it's 1 per mil, not even 1%. It's 1 per mil who maybe react at an extender.
There are some, I mean, but I believe that some of them are better with the raw, and I think maybe some obviously with the egg do, but you're right, I think it's a very, very small minority that are out there that actually do it. So the last thing, these aren't extenders, but we're going to talk about this next time, so we just haven't got time to go through this. So, well, not next time, but on one of our advanced ones, we're going to talk about Equipure, and this is a way that we can actually separate live and dead sperm cells. It's amazing, these microscopic sperm cells, and we can actually take out the bad ones and leave the good ones in, and it is incredible what this can do. So this is Equipure, and also there's another, we're going to talk about this at the same time, and I know Bart was alluding to, it's a cushion. So one's a gradient and the semen goes through it. This is a cushion, so when we spin semen down, we spin it on top. So it's a bit like if you're sitting on a, I don't know, roller coaster, you're sitting on a hard seat, you get a bit of a sore backside, you need a cushion on there to actually cushion it, and it's the same. If you're spinning the semen down at 500 G, you need something just to cushion that sperm cells, and this is what it does. Sorry if my explanations, everybody's laughing in the background now and trying to explain what a cushion is. But so, you know, we'll talk about cushions next time. I think we just want to get the basics over and done with on this one. But cushions we use a lot, and they can really help. And I think, you, again, Bart, you use a lot of cushions as well, don't you, whether you're chilling or freezing?
With chilling, maybe not so much, with freezing, always,
Yeah.
just to protect.
Because you're spinning down faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was just going to say, Annabelle Blake has read an article about an extender being developed in Australia, which doesn't require chilling and can keep the semen for at least 4 days. Have you heard about this?
So, Annabelle, thank you for your question. I actually have heard about this, and I was actually on speaking to Lee Morris in New Zealand just the other day about this, actually, because it's Samira Gibb. I've known Samira for a while from conferences, and she's developed this, and she's just going through the registration process of this. It sounds a wonderful extender, and I think if it says what it can do on the tin, it'd be great. But like everything, I think it's styling independent, and also you have to do more stuff with the extender. So I think it's still being put through its paces, but yes, it's meant to be keep the semen going for a few days. But I think with a lot of these things, it's all down to the stallions. Some of these extenders, some stallions semen will last a few days, but it'd be great when it's out. And I think it's like a clear extender as well. Have you heard of this extender, Bart, or not?
Yeah, I heard from this. I spoke last week with the professor of Hanover about this. We want to test it also. But on the other side, maybe it's good, maybe not. For sure, it's good for a few stallions. For sure, not for all. But that's with every extender. There is no extender who works with every stallion.
Yeah.
So, and the second thing is, what I think is, if they say they can use 4 or 5 days, the problem is the vet who checked the mare, he orders semen every 2nd day.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense to put the semen today and the same semen from 2 days old in 2 days later in the same mare. So I don't know if it is for the commercial thing. I think it's not working like this.
I think it's not commercial.
I like to, because then I can protect my stallions. They don't need to jump every day. They can jump 2 times a week. So that is, for the stallions, it would be fine. But I think it will not be so commercial in this way.
Yeah, so we will see. So hopefully that we'll know a bit more about that in the future. So now we've centrifuged the semen. Another little tip for you out there is that we use, now we don't want to shine lots of bright light on semen, but for a very short time it's not going to do any harm when we're doing it. So if you look at that, we've used an extender which is quite clear, and you can actually see the band there. If we were to do that, see how well it shows it up now. You can really see here the band of semen, and when you take this band off, Bart, how far do you go down when you take it down from say a 50 ml tube?
I think I go down, if I know the stallion can do good, till I see the semen start to move up.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I go down really deep, but maybe I leave 1 or 2 ml on top. Yeah.
Before I forget, there's another poll question we've got to ask. I just would like to know out there, what extenders do you use? Now, this is a multiple choice one, so you can tick multiple questions for this. So what type of extender do you use for fresh and chilled? Do you use INRA, the Spur Vital extenders, the Boto extenders, the Equipure extender from Minitube, Hipex, or do you use another one? There is lots out there, so I wasn't going to list. So that should come up on your screen now, and you can tick multiple ones. So it'd be just quite interesting what people use on that. So thank you, Faye. So while we're doing that, I don't know, is that on the screen there, or can I carry on with this? Yeah, can I carry on doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is quite a good. I think, Bart, you've got the same thing with this. It's like a water suction pump. You can just suck this out. So we literally just turn the hose on. We get one of the suckers, and we can literally, we can go down. Sorry, Lucinda, you ready? And we can take it down. I must admit, I usually go down to about 5 mils. You might want to go lower, but we go 5 or 10 mils. I always like to leave a little bit of the seminal fluids in there, but not much. It depends on the stallion. If we think they've got an issue, we can go right down. So we can do the same here. We'll try and go right down with this one. So we can get right, but you can see here on a clear extender, it's much easier to see your band. Can you see that okay, Lucinda? And there you have it. Right, let's check that away. So we'll bring this over. We quite often, I like to use a Vortex Mixer, and we just mix this up a little bit. So we just mix the semen that we've got in there to make sure it's nicely mixed up. And then we can resuspend. So we've just got some Spur Vital Red here, and all we do with this is then we just re-extend this extender. You right, Pam? Have you got that in a minute to do the morphology? I mean motility. So re-extending it, what do you normally re-extend it to? Is there a certain concentration, Bart, that you like to re-extend it to, or do you just see what the motility is like? Or
first of all, I see after centrifugation how big my pellet is, but you have keep in your tube.
Yeah.
And then I respend about, maybe it depends how big the pellet is, and then I make 5 ml, 10 ml, 15, and after this I measure again, and then I make it on 100 million for half an ml.
Yeah.
But that is not for chilling. You go down to 50 million per ml. So I make it quite concentrated.
So you do 50 million per mil, did you say, or 50 million per half mil?
I do 100 million per half mil.
Yeah, yeah. So
for put in the fridge.
Yeah. So people might be thinking, but when you're sending it out overnight,
then if I send it out overnight, this is what I put in my fridge.
Yeah.
If I send it out overnight, I put about 40 to 50 million for ml.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do roughly the same. We always say 50 million per ml, but I always think once it's centrifuged, and I think we've spoken about this before, but you can make it a bit more concentrated, can't you? If you don't centrifuge, you must dilute it out to that 50 million per ml.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you centrifuge, we've taken out that seminal fluids, and sometimes we can send it out at maybe 100 million per ml, like you keep it in your fridge. And I think even sometimes you were saying on a low volume, high density, I think sometimes you even go up to 200 on some stallions. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and it works really well, this. So I think every stallion is different. So if you're not centrifuging, you've really got to stick to that 50 million because you've got to dilute that semen out. If you centrifuge, you can make it slightly more concentrated. So that's quite often in Europe, you might only have 10 or 15 mils come from Europe, whereas in England, we quite often get the 40 mils coming because it's not necessarily always centrifuged. So that's quite often different. So exactly what Bart says, we have a look at it under the microscope again, and then we dilute it out. We can do a concentration, and we can have a look and just to see how good this semen is. Have you got one ready for that one in a second? 50 million. But I'll, right, let's just have a look at this. We're going to do more on a semen assessment next time, but it's really important, I think, just to talk some basics about semen assessment. We're going to do a whole presentation on it because I have to say we can do all this fancy stuff, but if we don't analyze the semen properly, there's no point doing any of it. Use a pipetta, ideally, and you want to be using sort of 10 microliters, so you want to use exact size droplet every time. And ideally use a warm stage, and you want to, when you pick these little things, pick these cover slides up by the side. If you do that, just do a little trial at home if you want. Put your fingers on it and put it on the semen. It kills the semen virtually instantly. The moisture on your finger kills it straight away. That's why when you analyze semen, if some people, they might see different, so always hold the slides at the side. And I like these slides that are 22 mil by 22 mil, and just try and let the slide just drop on your semen sample so it spreads nice and evenly. And oh, look at that, beautiful up there, beautiful. So, and there we have it. And we can, I don't know whether you can sort of see that side of things or not, but that gives you a bit of an idea of some of the semen samples on there. So it's worth, so we tend to dilute, and the amount that you need to send out, the World Breeding Federation recommend that you send out 600 million sperm cells chilled, so if it goes overnight, you've got a minimum of 300 million at point of AI, because they say some of it might die off. So you've just got to do your calculations to make sure that you've got enough sperm cells. And what I do is I try and show you that in a minute. But we've got some news for you tonight, some really good news. Bart, I don't think I've even told you this, Bart. So it's a bit of an unveiling ceremony tonight. We've been just come along and, oh, the sun's a bit strong there. I can shut this door. But we've just purchased a IBOS CASA system. This is only been with us for about a week and a half now. And so this can actually analyze semen in a really accurate way. And it does sort of from 500 to 1,000 cells. And it counts them all, and also looks at the motility and the progressive motility as well. So how it works, I don't know whether is the sun in your eyes there, listen? Yeah, come around, that's better. Yeah. So Pam's put that on there. Pam's the guru on this. So we literally, so we want some different, to require. Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to focus it in, and we want to select 5. And what we do is just go back a bit just to make sure when we're doing this, we get to the edge of the slide when we first start it. There's the edge, and then we count in 10. So we just move. Sorry? Right. Oh. So then, Pam, you do it. Pam, and then if you can press start.
Scan.
And there it comes up with, so straight away it's counted 1,100 sperm cells. It's given 992 million of them are motile, 780 are progressive. So it's given us a motility here of 84% motility with a 60% progressive. Did I tell you, Bart, we've just got this? I can't remember whether I was overexcited.
No, I'm just looking and wondering how you can invest so much money for now. You just built a new lab, you built everything, and now you make this. But yeah, okay, it's nice, very nice, good.
It is secondhand, I have to admit, and but what it does mean for us, it's great because now when we assess semen, there's no biasness. The machine tells us. Obviously, we have to make sure the machine is set it up right. So if people want to now send their samples to us, we can actually get a proper printout. It can analyze the semen. It looks at thousands of sperm cells and very accurate. It can tell you how motile and how progressive they are. So yeah, it's great to have this in here, and it's obviously it's a second-hand machine, and so it's a new addition to our laboratory that we've got. So, but it's been a huge asset with a frozen semen for the chilled semen as well. So yeah, that's works well. The other one is the ice sperm. So with sorry. So this is the eye sperm that we were talking about before, and you see, so the eye sperm is just analysed exactly the same piece that we just seen, and you can see how accurate the two are. So the eye sperm is giving it 82%, and this one gave it 84%. How cool, that was a lucky one. And it's given it a 78% progressive, and this one gave it a 66. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit out. The eye sperm new is about £1,700. This new is about 40,000. But yeah, the eye sperm, many of you have got maybe the eye sperm out there, and I know, Bart, you've tried it, but that just shows you about how accurate and the eye sperm actually is, isn't it? You've used the eye sperm a little bit, haven't you, Bart?
Yeah. I used it a little bit, and for example, if I go to Colombia or this place is far outside, they have no so much aperture. Then I have the only thing what I take with me is the eye sperm, and I can show them everything.
Yeah, and
so
just to show you here.
Also, yeah, and also for the vets, if they go outside and they want to check, they get semen, they are somewhere outside in the field, they make one test and see what kind of semen they can, what they get and what they use for the mares. So it's very, very interesting machine for vets and for everybody.
Yeah, and you can see the concentration it's given us here is 73 million. And if you turn around on here, although I haven't got the right slides, this is giving it a 74 million mil. So it just shows, yes, they're not always accurate. It depends on the size of droplet. And I think I just want to show you, Pam, can you just set up a droplet? I just want to show people how they set the ice sperm up, because some people don't quite understand how we do the ice sperm. We've slightly changed how we do it. It's slightly my fault. We used to dip it in when we use the ice sperm, but I always find it's best to put a droplet on top so you get here. So what we tend to do is I won't put it back in there now. So we literally put I tend, rather than dip this into the semen, you put a little droplet on here. And then you put the cover slide on. Hear a click. You change it over. You put it on, and then you screw it in the back of here. And you can actually look at the semen on the slide. So there you have it. And then you just press analyze, and then you start analyzing, and it analyzes the semen. So that's a great tool. And just remember, there's so much more we can teach you here. So we do all the training courses here, so you can come from September the 1st. We start doing the collection and courses, and you actually, to learn all this, you do hands-on actually in the lab, so we can teach you all that side of it. We can go a lot more in detail how we process chilled semen and all that side of it. So we've got a clipboard with that, Pam, just so I know where I'm at with, make sure I haven't missed anything off. So we do all these training courses as well. So, what was the end? Do we know what the result of the poll question was?
I'm not 100% sure. I think it was INRA was the highest one.
I'll have to have a look at that later. Sorry about that.
Hang on, they're here.
Oh,
yeah, INRA was at 64%.
INRA 64.
Supervital 31.
Supervital 31.
Voter at 13. Equiplus 19. HIPEX 13, and 20% were other.
20%. So there's a whole range of extenders that you saw there as well. So that's a little bit of an insight. So just I did a little bit on an extender, and obviously this new machine that we've got here. So it's a fairly straightforward calculation that we do when we're shipping semen out, is that we look at the amount of sperm cells you've got, you times it by the volume, and you times that by the progressive motility of those sperm cells. And you want, ideally for fresh AI, you want 300 million sperm cells. And for chilled semen, you want 600, because you reckon half of those might die off. Now, Bart, on some of yours, stallions, I think with your fresh AI, you go down to some quite low number. I think you say sometimes you put very small amounts in your mares, don't you? And you have really good results with it. Is that right?
Yeah, but we go down. That's what I said before. I spin down, and then I make it in half an ml with 100 million sperm. So, and that I take in my refrigerator, and then I can make what I want for the customer. If I know the customer is just my neighbor, he inseminates in half an hour, I can give 300-400, and then in one dose. But if our vets are inseminating the mares in my place, they inseminate only with one straw, half an ml. So like frozen semen, one straw, they have 100 million, and that's enough. And we have a very, very high percentage of pregnancy with this system. And even some really people from university and these people say normally we should teach the vets to do like this because it's better for the mares. They have not so much fluid, they have a lot of stuff, but it's much better. But for the praxis to give all the vets this system, it's not so easy.
Yeah, and I think we're going to talk about that in the advanced one. We've got one slide on that actually upstairs, Bart, actually, which we're going to talk about. So I always got to leave people with a bit of wanting a little bit more for the next one. So one thing I just want to briefly, we're going to talk about freezing next time. We've got all the freezing gear here. And yeah, we've got to do obviously a little bit of self-promotion. We are running our mini freeze that starts in September. We've got the mini freeze offer that we're starting off with very soon to encourage anybody to want to bring their stallions in. And say we do lab, and also we do all the lab setups for people if they're interested. Pam, you got about washing up here, but I think we might leave that. Does that mean you're going to do the washing up tonight, or am I going to do it? I think I did it this morning actually. No. One question just with the audience out there. Now, we'll be doing this for, I think we've done 8 webinars now, and I really want you to give me your honest opinion tonight. These are quite expensive, they take quite a lot of time to run, and I'm not saying we're going to charge them for you, but if Rachel, if you can put the poll question up, we're just going to put, do you think if we were to charge for this, would you pay £5 to watch tonight, for instance? Would you pay £10, or would you only watch this webinar for free? I'm just quite interested to know, moving forward, you know, putting on these webinars, they take a lot of time, but I want you to be honest, and if you say, look, you'll only see it if it's free, that's fine. We can just try and get some more sponsors to do it. But obviously, it'd also be nice, you know, do you think it's worth paying a £5 or a £10 for? So if you can just let us know that, that's always quite good. So lastly, we've extended our semen out. The other thing, can you get our chart from the wall there for extending semen out? There's quite a nice chart. If you do come here, we give you quite a lot of paperwork that you can take back with you. So when you're extending your semen out, there's a basic rule. We can always send this out to you. So if your semen is anything between 100 to 250 million per mil, you want to extend it out 1 to 3. And so far, we use this chart quite a bit, and this will give you a good ratio of what you should extend the semen out to. So whether it's 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, it's always best, I think, to overextend semen than underextend. It's always best to add that little bit more in it. And if you're not too sure, it's best to overextend the semen. So when we're sending the semen out, a few little things. Some of you may or may not know, we always want to use 2-part syringes. I think, Bart, you use test tubes when you send the semen out rather than syringes, don't you?
We have closed tubes from 15 ml. Yeah,
we use 2-part syringes. So we literally just take the semen up, make sure there's no rubber band on there. You always want to wipe the syringe really, really well once you've diluted it out. And then you put a little syringe cap over the end, and then you just get, you either write on it, I think you put a sticky label on it as well, don't you, Bart? You put a sticky label with the stallion's name, is that right?
Yeah, that's in my place one of the most important things, to write everything, to make sticker on everything, because at the end of the day you have 40 tubes from 40 stallions, and they are all looking white. So it's very important to write down exactly what you have done. On each tube glass, doesn't matter, always.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And it's these things, this is where a mistake can happen. And a lot of people out there, you might only have 1 stallion. You might only have 2 stallions, I admit. You haven't got the numbers. But even so, I think get things look smart and presentable. So when it arrives at the vet, it looks good. So we always place them in here with the paperwork. You want to ideally put your ice pads in at the same time as the semen. So you don't want to shock this semen. So you want it to cool down as slow as possible. So put your semen in your shipping box. I'll go through this paperwork a bit later. This sort of talks about the health tests and all the details, but we'll go upstairs and talk about that in a minute. And then when you put your paperwork, a little tip, put your paperwork in a little plastic bag, because if you just put it in here, it all gets wet and it just all falls apart, and it doesn't look very presentable. And then we closed it up, and then we ship it out. And this is one of the mini 2 boxes that we sell as well. So I feel like I've spent enough time in the lab, and time's ticking on, and we've got a presentation to do. Is there any one more last question, Faye, or should we go?
Yeah, just a quick one on SPM 20. Why should a stallion owner start feeding that supplement?
The supplement, we find it can take about 2 months to get into the system, and it can't turn around things like testicular degeneration. It can't alter that side, but the stallion just needs a bit of extra vitamins and omega oils, and because omega oils help cells, and it's got omega oils in there. This can really make a difference for a stallion that needs semen freezing or longevity or anything like that. It can really make the difference. Some it doesn't make any difference at all, and some it can make a difference. So. Great. Well, thank you to our Pam. And for any of you, a lot of people might know Pam. Pam's been with us, I'd say, nearly 10 years. This is one lady that we've got about 1,500 stallions in our tanks down here. I don't know what goes on inside her brain, but she knows every stallion, virtually what countries it's for, And as you know, when you ring her up, your stallion owner, she's a mine full of knowledge in there. And I have to admit, God, if she was to run over by a bus, I think we would be absolutely lost. So, yeah, but a lot of you in the UK, you might know Bart. I think you've met Pam before, haven't you?
Oh, hi, Bart.
Yeah, hi Pam. Nice to meet you.
But thank you for that, Pam, for staying behind. We'll see you on the next webinar in a couple of weeks, I think, with a bit of luck. As well. See you tomorrow morning. So we're just, I think we're virtually done down here in the main part of the lab. It's still amazing. It's taken us quite a bit of time just to do that. There's so much we can tell you, so much I want to tell you, but I appreciate you've all got to go to bed at some point. So we'll head on upstairs and we'll just have a bit of an overview now of what we're talking about with the presentation. So Rachel, if you can just please bear with us because we've still got to do the winner and everything else. So we'll be about half an hour. So we're going to head on upstairs and if you can play that, just a bit of an intro video while I run upstairs for a drink. For a drink? Get a drink. Hi, Rachel. I don't know whether you can hear me, but I couldn't share my screen, but I can now. Brilliant. Right, let's see how we're from the beginning. Right, can you see that okay, Faye, on there? Am I?
Yes.
Yep, I've got some elephants in the background, have I? Yes. I hope you like my backdrop today. Bart, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I cannot see anything.
You can't see anything.
But
Hang on.
I can hear you.
Right, okay, hang on. Yeah, we might have go back. I think it needs sharing, doesn't it? Oops. Let's just see. Where is it now? Right.
But it's okay, I can hear you. So
yeah, I know, but right. Try that. Is that better? We're sharing now, Bart.
Yes, you're working.
Can you see that now, Bart?
You just see your emails.
Oh, can you?
This screen. Yeah.
Right, hang on, just bear with me a second. Let's just see. Is that sharing it now? Hang on, try that.
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes, yeah.
Bart, can you see that now? I can't hear him now, so. He's gone. But anybody else can see that, can't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right, so just on the processing side, so just really thank you all for coming here tonight, and we've got hundreds of people watching again, so I really appreciate that, and I hope you're getting some. Again, we'd love to hear your feedback. I just want to make sure you can hear us okay. I presume somebody will soon let me know if you can't hear me. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just going to recap really what we've done tonight. Oops, just going here. Right. So a bit of an outline. We're going to go through a bit about the lab setup, a bit about the equipment. We're going to not spend too long on it because we've been over it, but please get your questions coming in and just anything you need to know. And please give us your feedback again. It really helps us with the next webinars and what you want to listen to. Just to start with, just really thank our sponsors, Spavital. Marika, if you're listening out there, great. Thanks very much for supporting tonight. Blue Chip, I really appreciate supporting tonight and especially giving your giveaway as well. That's one lucky person's going to get a load of SPM 20 and I think some hats and also Spillers. They've been the sponsors for the whole series of this. So again, thank you for sponsoring us. So just going up to the lab setup, if anybody wants these, we're quite happy to share these drawings that we've done here. I haven't got an issue about emailing them out to anywhere if you're building a new place. But this is just how we set up. And the same as Bart's. Bart, I don't know whether you can hear me at all there. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But this is how we set up our center. It's an EU center, so we just set this up so we could actually collect for European and worldwide use. So in other words, we have to have the collection area, the laboratory slightly separate, the AV room and the frozen room. So as you can see here with the collection area, we don't want to go straight into the lab, so we go into the AV room or the dirty room and then we go into the lab. So this is just the basic setup for that. So do you think everyone can still hear us, Faye? I think so, yeah. Yeah, I presume somebody will tell us if we can't. Also on that is the equipment. The microscope side of things is you need a microscope. There's still, if you're new into this, don't try and start doing AI without analyzing the semen. It's really important that you analyze it properly. It's fairly basics that you don't need a too high-powered microscope. I tend to look at it between 200 or 400 magnification. So your eyepiece wants to be 10 and your optics want to be 20 and 40, and that times the two together to get the magnification between 200 and 400. And you need a heated stage. Don't try and do it without a heated stage. You will not get proper accurate measurements without this heated stage when you do it. So it is important. Weighing these is important. As you lead to, Bart was saying, you know, the Dixon Bart, he weighs all his side of things, and we weigh ours. So we're saying you've only got to be a couple of grams out, and you can be millions of sperm out. So it's an easy, quick win. Just get a pair of scales for weighing. Equipment, other equipment, water bath, obviously for heating things up. Pipettas, just one little tip, use the 10 microliter. Years ago, I used to use these. I've made every mistake in the book you can think of and had to learn from those mistakes. But now we know to accurately measure semen will give you much better results. So 10 microliters each time. Are we getting any questions coming in, Faye? Or?
One or two of them swing just on the...
Oh, right,
yeah,
so they're coming in,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Centrifuge, we spoke about the centrifuge. Again, all this is going out online afterwards, or Rachel and Sue put it out there. Bart, just so if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Yeah, but I think you're on mute, Bart. That's the only thing, you're on mute at the moment, so we can't hear you. So you have to unmute yourself if you can. But you want to try and the relative centrifugal force, we want to measure everything in G-force, so RCF, and slow deceleration rate. That's it, Bart. You're off mute now.
No, it's okay.
Yes.
Okay, super.
Yes, fantastic. Do you like the backdrop, Bart? What about the elephants?
Great. Super.
We think we're in Africa. Yeah.
The next time you go there, you take me with you.
Yes. I've got, just so you know, hopefully I've got a good video coming out of all the work we've been doing with elephants. Speaking to IMCA today, so we've got a compilation, but that's another story. But I'll send that out to maybe on Facebook another day, how we collect off an elephant. But anyway, centrifuging, we spoke about that before. but just go on the internet and look at this this formula, and that will give you really an idea of how fast you should be spinning the semen if you're spinning it in G-force, RPM, sorry. There's lots of ways that you can, you've got to, we weigh it to find out the volume, but also we've got to work out how many millions of sperm cells in there. And do you ever use the Hemocytometer, Bart, or not?
What?
Do you use the Hemocytometer, this bit here? Have you ever used this or not?
I cannot see what you are.
No, it's a slide. Yeah, it might be a bit smaller on your screen, but the Hemocytometer, we call it the gold standard for counting sperm cells, but it's the cheapest way of doing it. But you have to be very accurate with your pipetting. Minitube have got the SDM one.
You count by yourself. Yeah, I have learned this, but
yes,
that's a long time ago. That was not so easy to learn, but yeah.
You're right. But it's a cheaper way of doing it, but it can be very accurate if your pipetting is good. But
yeah, that's right.
Remember, the photometric methods can only use raw semen, and their range is between 100 and 300 million. But the nuclear cell counter is all down to cost. It is no doubt about it. Is a fantastic bit of kit. You can do it with all extenders, but it does cost money. And later on, we'll show you, not today, but another time, we'll show you about all the other things that you can do with viability. We've got the CAS assistants. We've got the Minitube have got one called Androvision. So Minitube is, we're Minitube representatives in the UK. And this is it stands for CAS assistant, stands for Computer Assisted Sperm Analysis Machine. Obviously, the negatives, they're very costly. And obviously the calibration, but the positives, God, they give you some fantastic results, quantifiable results, and repeatable results as well. You've got the iSperm, and you saw the iSperm tonight. It's always one of those heart-stopping moments slightly. You put it through the great CASA system, and you're thinking, God, is the iSperm going to come up with the same result? And well, you saw tonight, it was within, I think, about 5 million sperm cells of it. So used correctly, the iSperm can work very, very, very well. And as I say, use a droplet. And when we do a presentation all about semen assessment, we can go through all these different ones much, much more in detail. So we saw it before. It actually can do progressive motility, long as the semen is under 100 million sperm cells. It can do that as well. Just about laboratory setups, I suppose I'm selling myself a little bit. Last time we had a lot of people abroad, and I know, Bart, yourself, you travel abroad a bit and you quite enjoy doing that side of things sometimes, don't you? And it's one thing that I really enjoy. And I've set up labs in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Dubai. So if there's any of you out there that are thinking about setting up, the hotter the country, the better. But you know, it's one thing I know it's a bit difficult with the times that they are, but I really enjoy it. And I think you go out, do you go out to Mexico, is it, Bart, sometimes?
I go to Mexico, I go to Colombia, but my thing is more the work with the stallion. That's what I love. The work on the horse. That's my thing. Okay, I do the lab also because I have the experience, but first of all, I like to have the work with the stallion.
And I have to admit, you know, when you collect off 30 to 40 stallions a day, yes, you certainly got a mouthful of knowledge there. So we're not going to go, we're going to leave this for another presentation, but we're just going to scratch the surface on what we should be doing when we're assessing semen. But when we're doing semen assessment, we want to look at the volume, how much she's giving us, because obviously we can determine how it sits. We want to look at the color. We talked about the color before. Has he got blood or urine in it? We want to look at the concentration. We want to look at the motility and the progressive motility. We saw that earlier. Velocity, how well it's swimming, how fast it's swimming, I should say. Viability, and that's how well is the cell membrane structure intact. Morphology and longevity, but we're going to talk, I think, more in depth in this another time. So here's some different samples. We've got normal sperm cells, normal ejaculate that we saw here. This one you won't see very often if you get something called a blocked and pulley, but again, we'll cover this on future webinars when a stallion gets blocked and they suddenly release semen. You know, we were saying before, the stallion gave us, I think it was about 6 billion sperm cells. And this ejaculate here, this stallion gave us 97 billion sperm cells when he released it. So some of them urinate in it, and then sometimes do you get some with a bit of blood sometimes, Bart, or urine, or sometimes?
Yeah. Sometimes you have a little bit of blood that you don't think about. That will do nothing. Only at the end the color is a little bit like pink, but okay. If you have urine, you have to be careful and really fast.
Yeah.
Try to dilute directly and try to get not maybe fill in another bottle to get the urine out as most as possible, because it will stay inside. Even if you do the centrifugation, it stays inside, and it's really has negative influence of the semen.
Yeah, we had a stallion recently, Bart, that it would urinate a lot in his samples, and we were really struggling, and sometimes it can be an issue. So we got into a really good rhythm. We used to chuck him out in the field where he didn't have much water. He would come in and the girls would watch him. As soon as he urinated from the field, for some reason, he'd always come in his box and urinate after being out in the field. We used to do a collection straight after that, and we had no urine in his collection, but we had to monitor. It's the only way we could get a collection without urine in his sample. But it's not uncommon, but it's certainly not common. We see a few stallions each year, but not many.
Yeah. I have also a few stallions. If they have worked, normally on my place, they walk on a walker for 20 minutes, half an hour. And I have some stallions they do and it's finished. And you have some stallions you have to put them 2-3 minutes in the table, wait, then they get a urine, and then you go and it's fine.
Yeah.
So you have to look at the stallion. If it happens, then you have to find a way to make it without.
You're right. You have to act quite quickly on it as well.
Yeah.
And one thing we have done, if it does it a lot, sometimes I've done it where we centrifuge the semen very, very slowly, but only for 2 minutes, and all the crystals go right down to the bottom. Then we take off so not all the semen comes down, and then we resuspend. But I don't like doing that. That's just as a last resort. So
yeah.
But semen evaluation, obviously you want to record, you want to look at the progressive linear motility, the forward motility. And it is a subject analysis. It's what Bart might say is 50%, I might say is 45 or 55, but usually you can soon train your eyes to look at semen and get a fairly common denominator. But great having that new machine, because obviously that tells us what to do. Flushing out, I think, is important on stallions. And I think, Bart, I know you've spoke about this before, but there might be people already on this webinar who didn't listen to you, but I think you flush your stallion. You don't look at the semen, or you collect off the stallions 2 or 3 times and throw it away. Is that right?
If I start with the stallions, the first 3-4 times, I don't look at anything. The only thing I do is look if the color is that there is semen inside, and then I throw it away.
Yeah.
And then after 3-4 times, I know. So now they are clean or more clean, and then I start to check and to work with the semen.
So the flushing out, and I just find the older the stallion, the more flushing out they need, because their ability to store the semen isn't so good. So some of these old stallions, they really need flushing out. We've got one here. He needs to be done every 3rd day, otherwise his semen's pretty bad. And then you get some stallions that hardly need any flushing out at all. So I know it's a bit of self-promotion, but this is new for 2020. We've got obviously this CASA system, and now so we can take outside samples to analyze semen. And the beauty about this, it can do between 500 and 1,000 sperm cells in seconds, which is amazing, and actually track these sperm cells, the progressive, the curvature, and everything else. And you know, it's a really good analysis. And I think Desiree, you've been helping with. You're usually a good fan on here, watching us. A good friend of ours, Desiree, is of mine and Bart's, and she's a great girl, and she's sent us some formulas as well to try and help us to analyze semen as well, with the CASA system, which is great. Yeah, going back to blue chip, obviously we've got this feed supplement which can work. It doesn't work on all stallions, but it really can help certain stallions with the motility, and that's developed by blue chip and with ourselves as well. So just coming back to the stallions, the seminal plasma issues, we have spoke about this before. You get a normal collection, you get these ones with very high volumes, low density, you can see straight away, you can see through it. And we mentioned this before, but with some of these stallions, we actually put extender into the bottle between 20 and 40 mils, depending on the extender. Sorry, depending on the volume of the normal ejaculate of that stallion. So if he gives us 80 to 90 mils, we might put 40 mils in there. If he just gives you 50 mils, we might put 20 mils of extender in there. Centrifugation, I'm just going to briefly go over this. It's removing, what we want to do is remove this fluid out of here when we centrifuge. So we spin it, and it certainly improves, especially stallions that have less than 100 million sperm cells per mil. Well, I'm not saying you have to, but I think you really should definitely be centrifuging semen when they've got low numbers of sperm cells and high volumes. It's the only way to improve the longevity and the quality of semen is by centrifugation. So that poll that we saw tonight, Bart, I don't know if you saw it, it was something like 60-odd%, wasn't it? I think they, in the UK, don't centrifuge. Well, I think, you know, if you're having problems with sending semen overnight, I'm not here just to flog your centrifuges. Buy a centrifuge because it will be life-changing for your stallion semen quality overnight. It makes a huge difference. So all you do is mix it 1-to-1. I know me and Bart might do it slightly differently. We do it between, well, put 400G. We usually do between 500 and 600G. This is without a cushion for 10 to 15 minutes. Remove the supernatant, and that's where take up that top bit, and resuspend with your extender and dilute it out, as Bart was saying before, to about 50 million per mil. You don't get all the sperm cells, you only recover 75%, but we're going to talk about on another presentation about how we can increase the recovery rate, but at that speed you only get 70, so you lose 25% of your sperm cells. When you do this, in theory, the semen can go 3 different ways: you're fresh, you're chilled, or you're frozen. Your fresh semen, we say, can be collected inseminated raw, and fresh semen is one of the most fertile ways of getting your mare in foal. And it can be, some stallions, it can even last at room temperature, sometimes up to 12 hours before chilling. But we prefer, I think, if it's going to be there for a long period of time, I prefer it to be chilled fairly early on in the process, not left lying around. Do you prefer it to be chilled fairly early, or do you think it can stay at room temperature for long periods, Bart?
No, I try to do what you say.
Yeah.
Also, collect, centrifuge, and then everything with room temperature, and then directly after finishing, put in the refrigerator and cool down to 4 degrees.
Yeah, I think that's.
And there keep it. It's just it starts already. You cool down, and the energy goes down, so they don't lose so much of energy just in the fridge. And they use this energy if they warm up again in the mare. So that's important to get the mares pregnant also.
It's great to see. We've still got hundreds. I mean, literally, we've still got hundreds of people watching us, Bart. So we must be hopefully that we're telling something right.
Yeah.
That's great. In fact, I always watch the numbers, and we're actually going up in numbers at the moment, not going down, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to chilled semen, I think you've got to make sure your stallion would chill. I always a great believer, just because your stallion won't last overnight. And we have some stallions here, we can't get them to last overnight. Is you must work within the parameters of that stallion. Otherwise, you're going to get very poor conception rates. So make sure your stallions will chill, and it obviously depends on the quality of the semen. And we've got issues, obviously, with the weekend problems, and obviously delivery problems from abroad of chilled semen, especially on weekends. So with chilled semen, yes, you've got to plan ahead and make sure you avoid the weekends if you can for the delivery side. Different extenders. I know we've gone through this before. Just a quick catch up. We've got the INRA 96 from France, which IMV make, Hipex extender that Bart uses a lot. The guy who makes this is another good sort of colleague that we know. He's also called Bart. It must be a good name for people who work with horses and semen. Must be called Bart, because he makes this very good extender. and you know, he's done very well out there. He's got some good results. Spervital from Marika, obviously with good extenders. The Kenny one, I remember starting off. Do you remember the Kenny extender bar? I remember it many years ago. I used to make it up. It was a bit of skim milk, a bit of lactose or glucose, and a bit of antibiotics, and away you went.
I think I have had it a few times, but I don't know who really made it. But therefore we had some other cheap stuff from the Hanover. It was made by pigs and everything. So also a milk extender.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot on the market, and that's what I say. You have to find out which extender your stallion likes, or the semen of your stallion likes the most. I
think we're very lucky now, because years ago you only had 1 or 2 extenders. Now you've got a whole range, and really there's very few stallions that won't chill or won't freeze, because and we're investing in a PhD student actually to try and make our freezing extender even better at the moment. And there's a lot of freezing extenders out there that work. So you've got the Spervital INRA, the Equiplus from Minitube, a good extender, the Boto extenders as well, which work out well. So
a couple of questions on extenders. Can you freeze INRA if you have too much?
Can you freeze INRA? Now the INRA, if I remember rightly, on the a bit of a loaded question. It says that you can't, I think, on the bottle, but I think people do it, and it still works. So we have tried it before, and it can work. I don't think it works as well as if it's not frozen, but I think you can.
But I think with the INRA you should not freeze, because the typical thing of the INRA is the special way of they work with the milk to make it work for the extender good. So I think it's one special way that nobody else has, only the INRA, what they do with this milk, and therefore I think it's not good to freeze it, because then you touch this milk again, you change everything again. So I think you should not do.
Yeah, we did a little bit a few years ago when we thought some was going out of date, and we reused it, and it was okay, but I just don't think it's as good as, like you say, when it's fresh in the bottle. So I think the instructions say you shouldn't as well. So what is important, I think me and Bart have said this 3 times tonight, when you do extender tests. So we usually do a whole range of different extender tests, different extenders, and we do some centrifuge and some not centrifuge. And I believe you should do this every year with your stallions, just to find out what extender they like, and just run a series. It's very simple to do, and just see the longevity of the semen. I've got to thank, obviously, Spervital again tonight for sponsoring this. They do a whole range of different extenders out there from Red, and they've got the I think milk-based ones with a white top, and they do freezing extenders as well. So they do a whole, but these obviously are frozen when they arrive with you, and they thaw them out, and these work very well. And we use them here, and I know Bart does as well. Shipping containers. I don't know, many of you actually remember the old Equipure. We don't tend to use these much anymore, but they tend to be used more for transporting embryos about than anything else. Is that yeah. Do you use them in Germany for that?
Yeah, if they to immune the embryo, they use them, put in a car, and then take it and go with it to labels to put the embryos in.
Yeah, and most people use the polystyrene boxes as well. So just to say, obviously, we've Equine Reproduction Spies was a company that me and Ellie run in the UK, and we supply all this Hipex, Spervital, INRA, Equiplus, all the mini tube range as well, just if anybody needs it. So just recapping on what we talked about with the semen. We diluted out, and the optimal concentration is round about the 50 million. If you centrifuge it, yes, you can go up to a little bit more concentrated, but it is stallion dependent. Should we breed a mare with 2 doses at once, or 2 doses 24 hours? It's not necessarily 2 doses. I may have written this wrong actually, but years ago we used to send out 2 bags or 2 syringes and used to AI a mare tomorrow, then used to save the next one for the other day. But we now know the best place for the semen is always in the mare. It's never really in the box. So it's always best to inseminate that mare with the semen. And what should be in a dose? Now, we've spoke about this before. You know, at the end of the day, it only takes 1 sperm cells, but a dose is a calculated number of sperm cells. It's suspended in a volume which meets certain criteria. In other words, motility, morphology, and viability. So this is from the World Breeding Federation, and when I do this more in-depth presentation later on in the year, but they recommend that a minimum of 300 million progressively motile sperm is needed to inseminate a mare. When I contacted 6 EU centres, it varied from anything from they were putting 150 million in up to 500 million in, and that depended from centre to centre. But the minimum progressive motility really wanted to see is 35%. And the volumes vary from 0.5 ml, like Bart was talking about, in a straw, sometimes up to 40 ml. So it did vary enormously, but ideally, in an ideal world, you want that 300 million progressively motile sperm. A chilled dose, you double it because you reckon half it might die off. And again, it varied when we did this questionnaire for EU centres. Anything from 300 million was sent out initially up to 1 billion. And I know in the UK, we tend to use this figure here. So we will usually have a minimum of 500 million. So we tend to send a little bit more out. A lot of it depends how many mares you got that day, because if you've got to split that dose several ways, you might have to cut your numbers down. And that can vary. I put from 1.5 mils to 40 mils. And I know, Bart, we've spoken about this before with these tiny little Effendorf tubes. You've done a little bit of work on it. And I've, you know, you always say you learn a bit from me. I think I learned an awful lot more from you. But, you know, these tiny little tubes, sometimes you send out with very concentrated sperm cells. There's not many stallions, or it's not all stallions you can do it with. But for those mares, it can pull a bit of fluid. It can work quite well, can't it? A small volume.
Yes, for sure. Because even if we send like this, the vets, they will do the deep insemination.
Yeah.
So and there's so less fluid. So this and the pregnancy rate of this is very, very high. So yeah, that works very well.
Yeah, but we'll go talk about that another time. I've just put a form together that we send out. We've got the stallion name, and I've just highlighted in red when you're sending semen out what the most important bits are that you need to see when you're sending out. So the main thing, we've got to know the stallion's name, as Bart would say. You've got to, when it arrives at your place, you've got to see that what the stallion is. Ideally, the collection date, the health test. You've got to know that that stallion's been health tested. There's been lots of disease outbreaks in the UK with some EVA last year, obviously, and in Europe. So we need to know that that stallion's been tested. So please don't AI these mares unless you know if the stallion's been properly health tested. And also, you want to see the progressive motility, ideally, what it was, and the insemination dose. So that's again, we talked about that before. And we're going to not go through this, but just on another webinar, there's so much I feel that especially myself and Bart would love to share with you. I'm not saying we'll tell you all our secrets, but we're certainly, I have to admit, we're showing most of them out there. There's a lot more we can talk about: centrifugation, cushioned centrifugation, density gradients. We can talk about semen cryopreservation. We're going to talk about that in 2 weeks' time. Low dose insemination, sex sorted semen, and you may have heard we had that sex foal born the other day, and epididymal sperm extraction. And so, with the cushioned centrifugation, we will talk about OptiPrep and how we can use that in so many different formats, and it can really, really help with your processing of semen, especially those poor quality ones as well. We can use density gradients. Again, we're going to talk about that, not today, but just to show you Equipure, how well this can really help with your sperm recovery and getting rid of all those abnormal sperms. It's like magic. It really is. You put this in, you spin the semen through it, and hey presto, you can have a stallion that had
30% motility jump up to 70% because you've got rid of so many of the dead sperm cells. It's quite incredible. Low volume insemination, Bart's quite a big fan of this. And there's another German colleague, friend of mine, Michaela Kohling. We did a paper on this, inseminating one straw, 0.5 ml into these mares with pool fluid. And we'll talk about that on another session, but this can work really, really well.
Yeah, but for example, she's 2.5 hours driving from my place. If she ordered the semen in our station, she always say, I talk with Bart, I get the concentrate dose. And then she get only 1 ml.
Yeah.
And the mares are pregnant.
Yeah. When we did this research, God, I think it must have been about 10 years ago now, and we did a paper, and this was more for mares, and this is what I really want to touch on later on. These mares that do pull a lot of fluid, and and it made such a difference to getting these mares in foal, putting 0.5 ml of semen in. It made a huge difference. Just going back, we're just finishing off now, really, our semen collection courses. As you know, we do all these courses where you physically collect off these stallions. So we're starting them in September. It's a 1-day course. Obviously, with the COVID issues, we are making sure that all the right health regulations are put in place, but that starts fairly soon in September. If you want to book on this course, it's just a date when it suits ourselves. We do the mini freeze now offer that, so it's just under £1,000. So you can get 20 doses frozen from your stallion. That includes 5 days livery, 4 days, 4 collections, a flush out, and that doesn't start again until the 1st of September because we've still got lots of stallions in at the moment, and that's just from the 1st of September to the middle of October. So please take advantage of that and let us know if you're interested. So just in summary, summing up. You know, having a detailed understanding of what a normal ejaculate looks like from your stallion, you can really, is a key to deliver fresh and chilled service, in a good fashion. So you're making sure that you get good quality semen to your clients. And I think it's important, you must work within the parameters of that individual stallion's ejaculate. So there's no point trying to ship a stallion semen if it doesn't look the best. It just ain't going to give you the results. You've got to work within those parameters. If you work within those parameters and say it will only last 3 or 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours, you'll get really good results. But a stallion semen that will only last 6 hours and you try and make it last 24 hours, you will get rubbish results. So work within the parameters of that stallion and you'll get good results. Just a few webinars that are coming along. Our next one from Stallion AI Services here is on the 13th of August, and hopefully I haven't asked Bart this yet, but I don't. Maybe I'll ask. I don't know, Bart, whether you can join me for that, but anyway, I'll leave that to you. But that's all about frozen semen, and you know, this is one thing I think I'd like to think that myself and certainly Bart, we really do stand out. You know, we do a lot of semen freezing, and we get together once a year, and between us, I think we freeze maybe 200, 250 stallions, and we learn so much from each other. So I don't think we'll tell you absolutely everything, but I think you'll learn an awful lot about freezing semen and also about all the characteristics of frozen semen. So if you're happy, Bart, and maybe if you're about in a couple of weeks' time.
I think I can manage it.
Because honestly, it's invaluable, your knowledge. And hot off the press, we've actually managed to tie my brother down, which is great. He's going to show you everything you need to know about having a mare ride. So we're actually going to go next door. I think it's towards the end of August. We'll give you the date. So we're going to do all about his side, about inseminating the mares, what you expect when you go next door, taking your mare and a look around. And then I think it's about the 10th of September, he's going to do all that embryo transfer. So we can learn all about that. And then these are all the things we've got webinars to do. And we're going to try and carry them on through the winter. We might not do 2 a month. We might just do 1 a month. But we're going to do one just on semen assessment, one on advanced semen processing, one setting up your AI center, new technologies. I'm really looking forward to that one. You know, all about sexing semen and all about the epididymal sperm and all that side, and about rare breed preservation. We can do one all about semen exports. I mean, we exported to 24 different countries last year, all about that side of things. epididymal sperm extract. Now, what is an insemination dose? What should it be for you mare owners out there? So we want to learn and tell you some of that knowledge as well. So again, if you can donate to the Horse Trust, that will be great. So tonight you'll get afterward, or tomorrow Rachel will send you a thing just seeing if you enjoyed it, and a link to the Horse Trust. Other ones that are on is the 2020 virtual futurity evaluations. Entries are now open and take place till the 31st of August. Stallion owners are encouraged, your mare owners, to enter their stock. Yes, so stallion owners, please encourage your mare owners to enter their stock into this. The futurity is a great thing. Please be a part of it, and don't forget to miss out. And the forthcoming webinar dates. Here we have it. Rachel, God, you're one step ahead of me. You put all the dates in. So the 6th, we got Bolesworth. We got about the 13th, you got me talking about frozen semen again. And you got an evening at Twumlows with my brother, Edward. And I think we're going to do a bit of a double up, me and Edward. And on the 10th, we're going to talk to Edward about new technologies and ET. And the futurity, obviously, every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We've still hundreds of people watching. So we might have just time for a few questions. Is there any questions, Faye, that...
Yep, so quite a few on centrifuging.
Yeah.
Do you still centrifuge semen if the stallion gives a low volume?
That's a good point, really. So the question was, Bart, is if we get a low volume, I presume a high concentrated product. I have to admit, we still do centrifuge, but the need to centrifuge may be not as great. But we still centrifuge, I have to admit, because it's virtually habit that we centrifuge if we're sending out chilled. But if you get a very low volume, very high concentrated, do you still centrifuge, Bart?
I do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even, I know now in Germany there's one doctor who makes tests and say the centrifuge is not only to get the seminal plasma out. Yeah. It's even good for, if there is no seminal plasma, it's even good to wash the semen, wash the cells. Yeah. They are more going outside. And so therefore it's also very important to centrifuge if you have a really low dose.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Or a really low volume with a high concentration.
And just please get your questions coming in. And if you've, again, we've got to take pictures tonight, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Never mind. Anyway, but leave your comments on Facebook if you've enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, don't leave your comments. But anyway, if you've got any more comments, Faye, or
yes, yeah, Chloe Hall's.
Chloe, how are you doing? You picked your boy up yesterday.
Yeah, so she's asked, has the testing been done to prove what improvement the sifting of dead and live semen can do on chilled semen?
Has the testing been done? I think I know what you mean, Chloe. So when we remove the dead sperm cells out, what you're doing is you're not necessarily, you're not creating more good sperm cells, you're just removing the bad sperm cells. So what you're left with is just good sperm cells. So yes, it can. We had one stallion. Unfortunately, I can't mention stallions' names, otherwise I'll get a lot of rude emails come through. But we had a stallion many years ago, exceptionally popular one. We put him all through the density gradients. His semen was only about 30 to 35%. And if it went overnight, God, it would be about 10 or 15%. We put him through the density gradient. It would take it up to sort of about 70%. And the next day it was always, about 40 or 50%. So it was all so much better. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good, that's a super system. You only have to know how many amounts you have before, because if you have 10 billion maybe, and you're speaking out 30% motility, then you have at the end maybe only 3 billion. But yeah, that you have 3 billion you can use. So this is really important to know before.
I think was there another one come through?
Yeah, quite a few. Is SPM 20 competition legal?
I think it is. Yes, I think it is. Yes, yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like the backdrop, Bart? You like the elephants tonight? I could do the vote whether we keep the theme tonight.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
think I saw something about nanoparticles coming through tonight. Somebody, there's something about nanoparticles. Yeah. Have you tried nanoparticles?
Tried nanoparticles for selection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you tried it, Bart?
Yeah.
Better be careful, or maybe we better be careful what we say. But we tried it. Yeah, I must admit, a long time ago. They actually, we know sometimes. I think it's moved on a bit now, and I think there has been some good results. We don't use it at the moment, but I think there has been some good.
Could you explain what it is?
Basic nanoparticle. It's nanotechnology, so it's using very tiny little metal particles and very fine particles that you mix in with the semen. You use these powerful magnets, and they can sort of latch onto sort of some of the more morphologically abnormal sperm cells, and you can actually, it's meant to help improve the semen quality by taking out a lot of the abnormal sperm cells. So yeah, but you haven't used it much, Bart, have you, or not?
No, I used it for try to do section.
Yeah, but yeah, anyway, that's so better leave it at that one.
Yeah.
You were talking about samples with blood or urine in them. What actually happens to those samples? Can you still use them, or do you chuck them away?
The question, Bart, was if we get samples with urine, do we chuck the samples away? I think it all depends on the degree of contamination you get. So a tiny bit of blood. If it's a pinkish tinge,
the blood doesn't do anything.
But I think if it's really dark, it's not, can't even show it on the screen there because I've got a background. But if it's really deep coloured red, yes, we wouldn't use it. If it's a pinkish tinge, yes, we will use it. If it's urine, if there's a tiny bit of urine in there, we'll try and centrifuge it and clean it. And like Bart was saying, we dilute it straight away. If it's a lot really contaminated, no, we just
no. With urine you cannot use. No,
yeah, you can't use. Yeah. Oh God, we got a funny one coming. I feel, Bart, now.
James Crabtree.
James Crabtree now. It's, all right, James.
He said, nanobots definition: tiny little robot versions of Tullis, which you drown in semen.
thanks, James. Good old James. Yeah. I knew we were going to get a good one out of you, James, at some point. I was waiting for it. But I think maybe we're coming to, we've done our 2 hours, and I really think, I don't want to bore everyone. We've still got hundreds of people still watching, which always amazes me. So I really just want to wrap it up. Oh, Rachel, can you give me, have you got the winner tonight, Rachel? Sorry, suddenly sprung that upon you, Rachel. I don't know where you most sprung. I hope you weren't nodding off then.
Not at all. I was here listening to your every word, and yes, we have a winner, Lindsay Atkin.
I hope she's in the UK, because sending this stuff out to Australia could cost a lot of money. So, well,
I have no way of knowing. So
Lindsay Atkins, you might not even own a stallion. I don't know, but anyway, we will send you an email, and I have to say that's kind of blue chip for putting this prize up tonight. Obviously, we spoke about the next one in 2 weeks' time. It's all about frozen semen. And don't forget to support our charity, which is the Horse Trust that we carry on. Big thank you to the sponsors tonight. Without you, we couldn't run this. I haven't heard about the poll yet, whether people want to pay and watch this. Did you? Well, Rachel, you can tell me that result later. Maybe everybody wants it for free. I don't know. But thank you for the sponsors tonight. Without them, we really couldn't run this. So thank you, Spur Vital, for sponsoring. Thank you, Blue Chip, for giving the prize away and sponsoring tonight. Thank you, Spillers, for sponsoring the whole series of the. We've still got one more session left for the Stallion Management Series. And thank you for John, who's just put up to all the panelists. Thank you for a brilliant seminar. Well, thank you, John, for that comments. We do read your comments. I see them coming on the screen. I won't read out the bad ones, just read out the good ones. But I've got to, I don't know whether we can do this with, there's Faye. She's out in the Sahara as well. But Faye's, I have to say, to thank Faye, really, she stays with me until 9 o'clock every other Thursday night, and I really do appreciate it, reading out these. So a big thank you for that. She's in the background all the time. Another one from Ellie. Thank you. You have seen it, been very informative. Well, thank you, Ellie Markley. Thank you for that. So thank you for all our team here as well. And a big thank you to you, Bart. You know, it's 10 o'clock with you. I know you most probably have to be out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. You start at 4 o'clock, so you're going to need a bit of shutter. But at least now you've got a nice bright light on. Normally it gets quite dark when I'm looking at you and can't see you. So, and I think everybody in the UK sort of really admires the work you do out there, and you add so much to these webinars. So I can't thank you enough for doing that. And thank you for all our team. And obviously thank you for Rachel and Eva and Jane and everybody for British Breeding, because they do so much behind the team. And thank you. Oh, James Crabtree, thank you for that. You're off to bed as well. Well, good night, and we'll catch it. But really, we've got another one to read. Some of these. Jane Gilchrist, who thank you for this series. It's been fab, and also including Bart and all the team, plus the head man. So there's someone who's just come up on the panelist to thank you, Bart, personally too. So really, I won't rabble on all night. We could be here. We've got so many questions. Really, a big thank you to everybody for watching. See you in 2 weeks' time if you're interested. And thank you, Bart. And we'll catch up soon. Okay. Good night.
Okay. See you. Thank you. Ciao.